I came home from the clinic that afternoon with my body aching and my spirit even heavier than the small envelope clutched in my trembling hand. The tests had left me drained, the waiting room had felt like a lifetime, and the doctor's words echoed in my head like a slow drumbeat. I wanted nothing more than to collapse on my bed, to let the walls of my home cradle me in silence while I processed everything. But what awaited me behind my own front door was worse than any diagnosis, worse than any pain a body could inflict. When I opened the door, the first thing I noticed was the laughter. Soft, intimate, and terribly out of place. I blinked in confusion, wondering if I had walked into the wrong house. Then I stepped further inside, and my world shattered in an instant. My husband, my partner, the man I thought would be my safe place, was sitting on our couch, wrapped in the arms of another woman. They didn't even notice me at first. Her head was resting on his shoulder, his hand caressing her hair as if it belonged there, as if I had never existed. The envelope slipped from my grasp and fell to the floor. My knees gave out beneath me. I collapsed at the doorway, the weight of exhaustion, betrayal, and heartbreak crashing down all at once. The sound startled them, and my husband turned, his eyes widening with shock. But in that moment, it wasn't anger that overwhelmed me, it was devastation. After everything I had just endured at the clinic, after the loneliness of that sterile waiting room, I had returned home seeking comfort, only to find that my comfort had betrayed me. "Emma," he stammered, pulling away from the woman as if the distance could erase what I had seen. "It's not what it looks like." But it was. It was exactly what it looked like. And the cruelest part was that I didn't even have the strength to scream or cry. I simply sat there on the floor, staring at the life I thought I had, now broken in front of me. The days that followed blurred together. I didn't confront him with rage. I didn't throw his things out into the street. Instead, I withdrew into myself, quiet but determined. He tried to explain, to beg, to twist the truth into something more palatable. But lies, once seen in the light, can never go back into the dark. I knew what I had witnessed. And more importantly, I knew I could no longer stay. I had gone to the clinic that day fearing news about my health. But the true sickness was waiting at home, in the betrayal I had been blind to, in the marriage that had been rotting behind closed doors. That realization became my cure. I packed my bags slowly, methodically. Each item I placed in my suitcase was not just clothing, it was a piece of myself I was reclaiming. He tried to stop me, standing in the doorway, begging me not to leave. "I'll change. It was a mistake. I need you." But for once, I wasn't the one who was weak. I looked him in the eyes and said, "You needed me when I was carrying the weight of our life alone. You needed me when I walked into that clinic by myself. And you chose someone else anyway. Now, I choose myself." Walking out of that house was the hardest thing I had ever done. The memories clung to me, whispering doubts in my ear, reminding me of the years we had shared. But with every step I took away from him, those whispers grew quieter, replaced by a voice I had nearly forgotten, my own. In the weeks that followed, I learned to rebuild. It wasn't easy. There were nights I cried until my chest ached, mornings I didn't want to get out of bed. But I kept going. I leaned on my closest friends, people who reminded me that love is not meant to break you down but to build you up. I threw myself into my passions again, rediscovered the parts of me I had buried in the shadows of my marriage. Slowly, the pain turned into power. The betrayal that had once collapsed me on the floor now stood as proof that I was strong enough to rise again. I didn't just survive, I thrived. I advanced in my career, took trips I had always postponed, and found joy in the small things, like morning coffee or evening walks, that I once overlooked. Months later, I saw him again by chance. He looked smaller, lonelier. The woman he had chosen over me was gone, and so was his arrogance. He approached me with tired eyes, muttering apologies and pleas for a second chance. But I had already moved on. I wasn't the same woman who had collapsed at the doorway. I had risen from the rubble of betrayal, stronger than I had ever been. I smiled at him, not with bitterness but with peace, and said, "You broke me once. But I built myself back better. And I will never let you break me again." And then I walked away, my head high, my heart lighter than it had been in years. The lesson I carried from that day was simple but powerful. Sometimes the things that destroy us are the very things that set us free. Betrayal hurts, but it also reveals the truth we've been too blind to see. And when you finally face that truth, You don't just survive, you transform.